Definitely a good shop day in this crazy world we're living in. Raining, it's not raining. I feel bad for the homeless people living in the woods. It's getting pretty bad. I'll tell you, just this morning actually, had this girl that's apparently living in the woods, homeless or whatever. She came up to me and you know, asking for money and stuff like that, and I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, you know, can't really help you or whatever. Felt bad. She so of course my battery dies mid-story. So anyways, yeah, this homeless girl or whatever in the woods, she's coming over asking me for money. Like, I'm sorry, I really can't help you. She's like, is there anything, you know, anything you want to buy, or any way I can make any money or whatever? I'm like, man, you know, these people are really desperate. So she starts, you know, offering off things, you know, for me to buy, to give her money or whatever. And she's like, I can't believe she's like offering to have my way with her and sexual favors. And she's like, yeah, I'll give you $20, give me $20. And I'm like, unbelievable. She's like selling herself over it. And she's like, yeah, just get to the point where she's like offering me all kinds of stuff. She's like, yeah, 20, how about I'll give you, she says a chocolate donut she had and sexual favors for $20. That's how desperate some of these people are. It's unbelievable. I was like, wow, it's crazy. Yeah, she was right over in that section of the woods right over there. Pretty nuts. All right, so we got the slop in the steering here. I see it wiggling. It's pretty sure we just got these plastic spacers we got to put in, and then I ordered these here also, which are for like the pedals down here. So I'm gonna go ahead and, I've never done this before, we're gonna pull it apart, get this handle set up out, and see if we can replace these and maybe tighten up the steering a little bit. It's not bad really, but it's nice to have the steering nice and tight and precise. So that's where we're going. I got everything all set up. I got the bucket up so it can't fall down. I got the cage up, so we got a nice area to work around here. Get a good look at that new paint. And let's have at it. All right, that sure opens us right up. So the right way to do it is leave these ends of these connected to the rods and just disconnect the front right here. So this whole unit stays in the machine. I disconnected them back there, so. But while I got this open, I'm gonna go ahead and clean up all this gunk and old broken glass and stuff that's in here. And probably be also a good time to repaint this header panel here. This control panel, whatever it's called. Never be a better time to get a good shot at cleaning that up and painting it, so we're gonna go ahead and do that. And this is the looseness that we're talking about. See all that play. It's like this bushing right here. This bushing right here. I don't know. Maybe the outer bushing. Yeah, the outer bushing over here. Look at that. Shouldn't have all that kind of play in it, so. I'm pretty sure these are the bushings that go in there. Hopefully, I ordered the right ones. Yeah, it's got that little notch in there, and they slide in, so they're probably all just worn out because they're plastic. So let's see how much better this gets. So for now, I'm gonna strip this down. Probably gonna pull the, I don't know, I might just mask and paint it because these are riveted on. I don't want to deal with drilling rivets out and everything. So we're going to take this apart, see what we got to do here. These don't appear to be much different, honestly. Looks like this whole rod comes right out. All right. So you got one of these on each end. See, that just has built-in play. Kind of sloppy right from the jump. Yeah, so it appears that this just might be worn, the actual metal's worn out, not the bushing, which is crazy to think of, but it does look like it's uneven. Got kind of a shoulder here and no shoulder here, which means it's worn out. It's got a lot of gap space in there. So these pieces here are probably, it looks like they're just aluminum, are probably the issue. Yeah, they're aluminum. Those are what need to be replaced. So I'm going to come up with some type of solution, a shim to wrap around this to tighten this up, just to be able to take up that extra space, tighten up that steering a little bit. I'm not going to wait for these parts new and order them. I got to get this machine back out. I thought it was going to just be these that are worn, you know. Especially seeing that they were plastic, you'd think that's what would wear, not the metal. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, these plastic bushings aren't worn at all. I'm gonna run to the hardware store and see what I can get to take up some of that space. All right, so this seems kind of like a janky fix, which it is in a way, but it isn't in a way also. These two arms, I'm sure they're probably 80 bucks, probably 60 bucks, who knows, maybe even 100 bucks a piece. Plus you gotta wait for them, to be shipped, all this crap. It's not like it's a high wear area. I mean, it's the controls, but you're basically just moving it in and out a little bit. If it was that much of a concern, they would have put real bearings in there as opposed to bushings or even bronze bushings over plastic. So there's basically just these nylon inserts in here which take up that space, and the nylon actually wore into the aluminum just through time from using the controls. And all we did is we took some acetone, cleaned up the inside of those aluminum pipes, took some sandpaper just to rough it up a little bit to give it a little bit of a surface for it to stick to. And then we used this steel reinforced epoxy, 6-minute setup. It fully cures in like 4 to 6 hours. So I'm gonna let it sit for like a half an hour and it'll be strong enough to put back together. And basically all I'm doing is creating a shim, so to speak, out of this material that's going to take up that gap that's in between the aluminum and the nylon. And what's cool about it is, if you saw in the beginning, when you look in there, there's actually a little shoulder in there because it's worn into the aluminum and it's created a shoulder where the pipe farther in is actually narrower. So once that dries, that'll prevent the actual shim. It's going to be like a circular shim. Even if it doesn't stick to the aluminum, as long as it just stays in place, it's still going to do its job by taking up that space. It's just a space filler. And by having that little bit of a ridge that's worn on the inside of the pipe, that's going to prevent that from working its way inwards and then not becoming effective. So that it can't come out because this nylon bushing has a shoulder on it, right on the edge right here. So it can't come out that way, and it can't go in that way because of, like I said, that little worn shoulder that's inside. So it's got no place but to stay there. So once it dries, it's going to be a hardened piece of steel epoxy circle that just stays in there. And that will probably wear slower than the aluminum or the nylon bushing, I would imagine. So we'll see what happens. I'm sure I won't have this machine long enough where we wear that out again to the point where it's going to need new bushings to be able to tell. But I think that was a good quick fix. It's $7. I didn't have to order, you know, anywhere from $120 to $200 worth of parts to replace those, and then wait for shipping and all that crap. So sometimes you just use your head a little bit and you can save yourself some time and effort. I mean, honestly, the machine was fine as it was, right? It wasn't that big of a deal. Had I known it would require those two pieces, I probably wouldn't even have taken apart because it was okay. You know, just a little sloppy, no big deal. But I wanted it to tighten it up and have it feel as good as I could. So seeing that there was only aluminum spacers in there, I assumed, well, I mean, aluminum, I'm sorry, nylon. I'm like, well, I'm sure that nylon is what's worn out. And that's a common failure part. So I ordered up 4 new ones without, you know, taking it apart, because you don't want to take it apart and then have it, you know, have the machine down. So you order your parts ahead of time, which I did. And then I took it apart and realized that the bushings were actually not worn. It was actually the housing that the bushing goes into. So I think what probably happened in the past is those aren't the original bushings that I just took out. There were probably other ones in there that wore down to nothing. And then that wore the aluminum. And then they replaced the bushings and took some of the slop out. And now I just took the rest of it out. So I'm going to let that set up. I'm going to do the same thing on the inner side bushings, even though those don't have as much play. I am going to take up a little bit of space there just so it's nice and tight. And then we'll probably put it back together enough to just sit there and tighten up.